I'm just going to say this. Don't let them executive orders that's coming down get you knocked out. Don't sit there because they talking about the EEO program. You got people all excited running through buildings, tearing down posters and boards and stuff like that. Baby, don't let that stuff get you knocked out. Because you gonna walk around and you think that you gonna feel so empowered because the EEO program is going away. You gonna say, and that's exactly what you're gonna get. And that's exactly what you're gonna get. At the end of the day, you should not need a program to treat people with dignity and respect. But if you choose not to treat people with dignity and respect, you will need an ambulance. So pick a struggle. At the end of the day, most people weren't doing nothing but pretend. The only thing the EO program did was make people pretend not to be racist, and a lot of them were not doing a good job at acting. So we all experienced it anyway. The racism, the misogyny, all that other stuff. Don't sit there and think that you can walk around being all extra with it now, because a lot of people don't play like that. Yes, those orders might be trying to take us back to pre-slavery days, but baby, understand we are not our ancestors and we don't play like that. So that is what it is. You shouldn't need a program to treat people with dignity and respect. Treat people how you want to be treated. And that is what it is. I hope that this helps somebody. Be careful. Be careful. I said what I said. Next slide.
Drill Sergeant. Drill Sergeant. Salute. You said what you said. Next slide. If you know, you know. We'll say next slide. You know what? If you know, you know. I needed some comic relief. I'm sorry. And that was hilarity. She said, pick a struggle. You know, it's funny. She said we shouldn't need a program to treat people with dignity and respect. And she's absolutely right. And I had a conversation with my mom a couple of years ago. And she said, even though we have these laws, you can't legislate somebody's heart. You can't. That's why, regrettably, these laws were put in place, because things weren't as they should be. Now, can things have a tendency to go too far to the left or right? Absolutely. But that's why these laws, the Civil Rights Act, EEO, all these things, the Rehab Act, which is the, with respect to disabilities, Americans with Disabilities Act, yes, and the Rehab Act. All these things were put in place because people were not governing themselves, or institutions or agencies were not governing themselves as they should be, because it was the right thing to do. So they had to be forced to do it. And even though they were forced to do it, because you cannot legislate someone's heart, certain things would be evident. It just became harder to prove. Okay? But she's absolutely right. You know, you nuck, you buck. Or vice versa, however that works. But I needed the comic relief, because she said, don't let it get you knocked out. And she might have just saved somebody's life. For real. For real. Because one thing for sure, two things for certain, we are not our ancestors. And we ain't scared. So, but I come in love and peace. I don't advocate any type of violence whatsoever. But I'll just leave right there. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you, Joe Sarton. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Take that with you. Well. You know, this has been a long day, and I've really been putting out a lot of videos today. I guess I've been inspired to talk about some things. And I wasn't going to reply to this comment, but I feel like I want to. So this is in response to the video I posted with the drill sergeant, and she's basically saying, you know, don't get yourself knocked out because you feel emboldened to do things because the DEI and the posters and all those things are going away. Don't get in trouble. And you write, you still going with racism. Okay, And what I wrote to you is that it's evident that you only heard what you wanted to hear, because I did not speak totally about racism. I talked about things as it relates to the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Civil Rights Act that just does not affect Black people. Okay. So, and also just, being truthful that some people will feel like they can do that. Because some felt like they could do it before that. Now, you would know that because, see, you don't have to deal with it. Now, am I submitting to you that everything is? No, I'm not. I am not. But I am not turning a blind eye to the fact that it exists. And just because you don't want to talk about it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Because like I said, like what my mother said, who's 75 years ago, you can't legislate somebody's heart. You can only put parameters in place that hopefully will require them to do what they should do without the law. Period. But you made me think about something. And my military pictures are behind me, and because this story I'm going to share, this story time I'm going to share, actually happened when I was on my first assignment as a naval officer. And to learn, as many know, I did an inter-service transfer. So one day I was in the Army, next day I was in the Navy, learning how to put my uniform together on the job, learning naval customs and courtesy on the job. And one of the things I needed to do or wanted to do to immerse myself and to understand it, I volunteered for certain things. One being I volunteered to work on a promotion board. And it was not to be on the panel, but help to get the records ready for the panel to review. So each person had a stack of records, and they would go through them and make sure that they had, certain information in it in a certain format. So, the education, the assignments, awards, all those kinds of things. And that was a year that the Navy had taken the photos out of the records as not to consider anything but the merits, the accomplishments, the education, all those kinds of things. So you didn't know who was who. Only thing you knew was male or female. Okay. So being that I had a group of records and we got through our records, we had an opportunity to sit and observe the panel. And one of the ways that they did, the panel would have the record, if my memory serves me correctly, but the briefer of the record often was a selling point. Meaning, say for instance, I have your record and I am to sell your record to the board who's going to make the decision whether or not to promote you. And there were a couple of rounds, I think, above, at, and below, something like that. So this group of records came up through, and these were records that I reviewed because I had remembered names of the people that I reviewed. So this first record came, and this person's name was Mitzi Ellis. I will never forget that because, I looked at the accomplishment. I'm like, wow, she bad. I'm like, she tough. I want to be just like her. She's tough. I'm just looking at the accomplishment, the education, because again, a lot of times if you want to go for promotion, you look at the records of the people who've done the type of work that you're doing to see maybe the kind of assignments you should take to make yourself competitive as well. So I knew that she was qualified, overly qualified. Okay. But when the person was briefing her record, they were not very persuasive. They weren't selling it. And I couldn't quite understand why. Yet another record that was on my pile that the officer briefed, who happened to be a white male. The briefer was a white male. He was going in. He was hard charging for this record. And I remember the records, and the fact that I remembered them, this record was not nearly as stellar as this one. Not nearly. But the way that he briefed those records was completely different. Completely different. So because I was puzzled, after they had gone through that first round and she wasn't selected because he was, I'm like, let me go look at her record. Because when you don't make it the first round, you get a chance to go through the second round. Okay? So I couldn't understand because, like I said, she had the tougher assignments than this dude. But just so we're clear, these were human resources officer positions, okay? Not combat positions. These were human resources officers positions in the Navy. So when I go back and look through her record, and what I noticed was her school. And I said, that's it. That's what eliminated her. And not because her school wasn't a good school, not because her education wasn't competitive, but it was because her school was a HBCU. His was not. Can I prove that? No. I can't. But I saw it firsthand. If we want to talk about merit. And again, I didn't know she was black. Because when I saw the name Mitzi Ellis, I'm like, Buffy, I thought maybe she was white. And I didn't even look at her education too seriously until after she didn't get selected, because that year she wasn't selected for promotion. So like I said, you wouldn't understand that because you don't have to deal with it. You've never had to. And you probably don't even understand it now. Because you believe in this utopia that, I'm sorry, doesn't exist. Am I to suggest that every person that's not black is racist? Absolutely not. I think if you don't know, this house we living in, that we bought from my sister from a Caucasian mister, one of my closest, dearest friends. Beth, close, dearest friend, God rest her soul. So no, I'm not saying that, not even to the slightest, but I don't have my head in the sand either, acting like it don't exist. And like I said, it's just tougher to prove now. Tougher to prove. Because there's no way that person should have been promoted over her. No way, if we're talking about merits. Based on the criteria that was given and instructions that was given to us, there's no way he should have been. And the only difference that I could see was the fact that she went to an HBCU and he didn't, because all her assignments were a lot more spectacular than his. And that's just one example. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Take that with you.